Gather round, take a seat, grab your favorite drink. Let's dive into the Word and find out what we think. From coffee to communion, there's so much to explore. Truth and grace together, who could ask for more? Drinks and doctrine, raising our cups, faith and wisdom filling us up. Pour a little coffee, pour a little wine, talking about the sacred and the divine. So join us every week, bring your favorite brew. Drinks and Doctrine, this one's for you.
Welcome. We are here.
Hey there.
How you doing, Fred, the totally cool dog?
Yeah, nobody's going to know what that means unless you say something.
I figured I might want to mention it.
That's like a 30-year-old moniker, too.
It is.
Not some newfangled YouTube streamer ID.
We do not want to give away our ages, but yeah, it's a bit older. It's been around a little bit. We need a little dog to come along, or a little barky noise. Maybe I'll work on that. Anyway, we have a discussion for today. Today's discussion is going to be on the assassination of the CEO of UHC and how, as Christians, we want to deal with this. Should we be reacting like some, which is saying yay, and some, which is saying nay? So on that note, I think we should bring in our guest of 2 times, because we've had 2 shows. This is Ann's.
Hello. I still did not get a better background, so my plant on. My sad plant. Yes.
She got clapping for her.
Yeah.
We didn't get clapping. We got nothing, but that's okay. We're still loved, right, Ann's?
Oh yes, always.
So how you doing?
I'm pretty good. Keeping busy. A little stressed that Christmas is only a week away.
I know. Are we wearing the same? Oh my gosh. We're wearing the same shirt.
I was like, I didn't wear something holiday last week, so I put this on and I was like, there we go.
Oh my goodness. That is fantastic.
If you turn around, it's got the dog on the back, so then you could have the dog included for the totally cool dog.
That's true.
Oh, that's true. Turn around for it. Show us.
Oh, this is not going to go well for me.
Well, see, it's not going to go well for me either. All right.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Oh, too bad. So sad. I would turn around, but that would require me getting out of my chair, and that's not going to happen since I'm sitting in a very odd position so that I can be up high enough since my chair stopped working and it's really, really low. But that's another story for another day. Today, we want to be talking about this man. This is Brian Robert Thomas. He was 50 years old.
Thompson.
Yes, Thompson. Yes, not Thomas. Thompson. You are absolutely right. American businessman, CEO of United Healthcare, the insurance arm of United Health Group. And his killing just recently happened. And I wanted to read a couple of the ways it was reported, or at least that he was reported about. So Forbes said one of the older son's former coaches, which is just that, like, work your way around that. Like, he didn't know someone he knows, like one of the son's coach. I don't know. Anyway, told the Tribune his parents, quote, were present around all the team events, and Thompson's sister told the New York Times that he was a good person. And John Pinshorn, who was a former executive at the place where he worked with him for more than a decade, told the Minnesota Star Tribune that Thompson was, quote, humble, a servant leader and family man. Steve Parente, I think that's how you say it. A health economist at University of Minnesota who worked with him called him an incredible guy. USA reported that Brian was a highly respected colleague and friend to all who worked with him from the parent company. That was what their statement read. We are working closely with the New York Police Department and ask your patience and understanding during this difficult time. Our hearts go out to Brian's family and all who were close to him. And then people, they had a lot to say. People said, and I just want you to catch the dichotomy here. So we've had pretty much your basic standard go to get the reactions from people who knew him. This is how people reported it. Although they had been living separately for years, per the Wall Street Journal, Thompson is survived by his wife. I'm like, wow, okay, so just start with they're separated. So obviously something is nefarious about this dude. But survived by his wife and their 2 sons. Following his sudden death, Paulette, the wife, shared a statement via text message to the local Fox station saying that she was shattered by the senseless killing, and Brian was an incredible, loving, generous, talented man who truly lived life to the fullest and touched so many lives. Most importantly, Brian was an incredibly loving father to our 2 sons and will be greatly missed. They also included that, according to CNN, Thompson was sued in May 2024 for alleged fraud and illegal insider trading. The Hollywood Firefighters Pension Fund claimed United Health executives, including him, hid a U.S. Justice Department antitrust investigation to boost stock prices. The lawsuit said Thompson, who was allegedly aware of the investigation since October 2023, sold 31% of his shares for a $15 million profit shortly before the news caused the stock to drop 5%, according to the outlet. And additionally, Matt Burns, a former United Healthcare communications executive who worked with him, described him as whip smart and affable, adding that he was a guy who could grasp the complexities of healthcare and explain them in a simple, relatable terms, true to his Iowa upbringing. His star ascended rapidly, and yet I don't recall him forgetting those he worked with in the trenches along the way. He toggled between his leadership role and relatable Joe as effectively and easily as anyone I've encountered professionally. Rest easy, BT, you were gone too soon. So that is how people are officially reporting it. Then we have the unofficial reporting. Then we have things like Twitter, TikTok. I didn't get TikTok. We have, let's see, I'm going to present a wonderful, wonderful person. I hate that it has his name on it. Please ignore that because I'm trying very hard to avoid putting his name up there. But this person felt like she could add some insight on the Piers Morgan. We're going to hit Piers Morgan twice here because he just was on fire on this.
System. So the question is, if you don't want murders like this to be happening, assassinations to be happening like this in the street, I'm someone who does not believe in the death penalty and don't condone these kinds of vigilante instances of violence in either case. But if you want to get to the root of why people are so deeply unhappy, you have to, or it resonates so deeply with people that this has happened, you have to get to the root of why there is this deep well of tragedy, despair, and outrage in the United States of America. And that has to do with what Brian Thompson has chosen to do with his life,
all right.
what companies like United Healthcare have chosen to do to the American people.
But just to be clear, before I go to Natalie to respond to that, do you feel any empathy for Brian Thompson and his family?
I have infinite empathy for any individual as a person in their personal capacity. As his role as the CEO of United Healthcare, I'm afraid I'm with the overwhelming majority, bipartisan majority of the American people who say, I'm saving my empathy for people who are much more vulnerable and have caused a lot.
Right. So to be clear, you don't have any empathy for him after he was executed.
I personally don't.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're starting to get into the weeds here. And
One note
then
while you pull up the next thing. I
Mhm.
love how anytime people want to pull other people into their little dark place, they say bipartisan. You hear that a lot from people who talk on TV and operate in Washington, like that somehow makes it
oh yeah.
be true, you know.
Well,
Anyways,
you get a lot of people are saying, a lot of people have said, and then I think there was a Canadian political guy who handled this really well, where he was like, who is saying that? And what exactly are they saying? And it finally gets down to, well, I said it. Like,
yeah.
well, yeah, that's not helpful. Then we got this one. This is the last one I'll play.
This issue of Brian Thompson, one of the top healthcare executives in the country, I'm just curious why your first reaction would be to his cold-blooded execution. And people wonder why we want these executives dead. And then you later commented when people were giving you a lot of blowback, I'm not alone, you said. Healthcare executive down with party balloons was on an next post that you commented on. Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it
Joy?
feels like,
Seriously?
I mean,
Joy
I
at a
guess I would
man's
say
execution?
maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy.
I'm not going to watch that, but I'm not going to watch them shoot him again. But that's how people are reacting. And a poll that came out from ECP just today, that I saw it at least, says that 41% of young people find the United Healthcare CEO's murder at least somewhat acceptable, while another 19% are neutral. So the discussion today is, what do we think about all this? As Christians, all of us are Christians here. What are we thinking about this?
Well, as a resident young person, speaking to that statistic, I understand it, because the amount of memes and things I have seen out there and the talk about, so the first point is people are like, okay, he's only one CEO. He's only one CEO of UHC, of United Healthcare, whatever. But then he's the CEO of the insurance department. So he's the CEO of the correct department that everyone is all up in an uproar about. And then he also, I believe it was said that he created an AI in order to expedite the denial of claims, basically. So without anybody looking at it, he had an AI decide whether a claim should be denied or not, which, taking that as just right off the bat, people are going to see that, including myself. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, that looks really awful. That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that?
I actually have some stuff on that
We're
later.
going to hold that.
Okay.
We're going to hold that thought, Fred.
Okay.
So, but then this is personal thoughts. I think back to how this country was established on the idea that corrupt politicians should be tarred and feathered and, just gotten rid of. Now, do I think we've developed to a point where we don't need that anymore? Yes, absolutely. I don't actually think people should be tarred and feathered. That's awful. But I do think we should have some sort of system to where when it's like it feels like it goes back to the people in power, the rich and powerful don't have any consequences because they get to do whatever they want. They can buy their way out of whatever happens. And so in this instance, this is a very rich CEO who leads a company where people are constantly being denied for medical needs, who is in a bad way being taken out of his position. It should have been an easier process outside of an assassination, obviously. But I do think it's something where people are like, he should have been taken out of power. And it didn't feel like that could happen because he's rich and powerful and can prevent himself from being fired.
I hear you. And I actually think that this to go back to what Fred was just saying. It's bipartisan. It's, it's I think this is a bipartisan feeling that there are people out there that are above the law and they can do things that are morally reprehensible, probably illegal. In this case, you can't call what he did illegal, but probably should be illegal, if not actually illegal. And they're abusing their positions of power to keep the little guy down and to rake in their money and take care of them and their own. They're the elite class. That's what I think. That's a feeling on both sides. Like one side feels that it's power centered in the government, and one side feels it's power centered in like CEOs and of companies and whatnot. And having said that, I'm glad you brought up the AI thing. That was spot on. And I also appreciate how open and honest you are. Like, obviously you're, I mean, just for the record, since we're on YouTube, so people can recall this for centuries to come, you are not on the book saying he should have been killed, or you're joyful.
No, absolutely not. No, I don't condone murder. I don't think murder's good. I'm just saying I understand where the viewpoint is coming from.
You're not Taylor Lorenzing right now. I will say that on the good side of the X sphere, the sphere of X, I don't know how to call it. It's Twitter sphere normally in my vocab, but now I have to call it X. So it's like X sphere. But on the good side, we had somebody quoted as saying, the same people that wished for Trump to be assassinated are the same people that are saying the United CEO deserved to die. Are you all not seeing what this country is turning into? It's not okay to assassinate people, no matter how you feel about them. Our nation is facing a spiritual plague. Evil has been rooted into the minds and spirits. I don't know what it's going to take to turn things around, but a major change is needed. Only God can help us. So that was on the good side. But then we have the less than good side. I'm not really sure how to qualify that. the really, really reprehensible side. So I removed this person's name because I wanted to be nice. I feel like putting somebody's name out there with this is probably going to get them dragged by some people. But they posted this, so they kind of deserve to be dragged. And you can see that there's a ratio happening here, and it's not good. The ratio is exactly opposite of what we would like to see. We would like to see a lot more comments and a lot less likes, but this is basically naming names. They want to hide their faces. Let's get them out there. And by the way, we've grayed out Brian because he's dead. And that's just reprehensible. Then we have this. He was caught at a McDonald's, and one of the McDonald's employees was the one that called and said that he was there. And he'll go down as the biggest class traitor in history. What an absolute scumbag. Again, I kept the name out. And this ratio is just as bad. And then we have Andy Ngo said that leftist activists have been posting wanted posters around New York. And here's Brian marked out. This one's racist, and I don't think they'll even know that it's racist. United Healthcare shooter showing Americans they can shoot billionaires instead of kids. Now look, it's black guys. Whoever put this out there did not think through what they were doing. Again, the ratio's off by a lot. And then we have our politicians coming out. Now you see I've blacked out the name. Elizabeth Warren disgustingly defends the guy who shot Brian, the alleged killer of the United Healthcare CEO. You can only push people so far, and then they start to take matters into their own hands. So, and she's not the only one. Ocasio-Cortez came out. What's his face? Bernie Sanders came out. And they all did the, it's not right to kill people, but line. But
the usual suspects.
But okay, so I have to be fully disclosing that Fred actually worked in the healthcare industry in the insurance side, and more in the insurance side than actual application of healthcare is what I'm trying to say, because he worked in payment reform. And he actually attended conferences where Brian Thompson was speaking, possibly even met him before, Fred. Is that right?
Yeah, it's possible. I shook his hand, said hi. I mean, these things, I'm speaking in the little rooms and he's speaking in the big rooms, but we sometimes pass each other in the hallways, or you get a chance to say hi to folks in the industry. It's a very small industry, really, when you get down to it. You see the same people year after year, and he did regularly attend and speak at a lot of the healthcare events.
So for all I can tell, it seems like everyone who was actually knowledgeable of who he was had good things to say about him. They didn't seem to have any bad impressions, including the wife that he seems to be estranged from him, according to that one article. Having said that, to Ansley's point, there is a lot of, I'll just use the word vitriol out there about this industry and about who's holding the purse strings and how it's all done. So I figure, since you're a bit of an expert on it, maybe you can educate me and Ansley and whoever's watching a little bit to see if we can, I don't know, maybe understand his job a little bit better.
Okay. Well, yeah, first of all, and some of this will come up, I'm going to try very hard not to do like lecture mode. We've talked about that. I don't want to lecture. We can have a conversation about the slides I'll present and some of the things I'll bring up. But I think a lot of the issue that we have in this country, particularly maybe with young people, because they haven't been as invested in the corporate world for as many years as some of us older, grayer folks. But there is a lack of understanding of how corporations work, how organizations such as United Healthcare, United Health Group work, what that looks like, and what CEOs actually do in a company like that, and then how they operate and how they function and how they end up paying claims, figuring out these things like Ansley was saying, the denials, pre-authorizations, medical claim submissions, eligibility to participate in healthcare, all these things. There are dozens and dozens of factors that go into play for every type of healthcare out there. And these companies, United Healthcare, I think itself has around 220 something thousand employees doing the day-to-day operations of managing healthcare and making payments. So
and your avenue in on this was that you've worked at multiple jobs that have related to this particular area, but you worked in product creation for payment reform. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, for a long time, we've been trying to innovate and renovate how healthcare gets paid. So this whole idea of going from doctors doing a procedure, billing an insurance company and getting paid for it, it doesn't really work from a health maintenance, health for a member, you and me, our point of view. We don't want to just go to the doctor and get a shot, or go to the doctor and get a diagnosis, or go to the doctor and get a procedure and then go home and then have to start all over again with another doctor, or go to the same doctor and he keeps doing more tests and more things that end up costing you and the insurance company and everybody a lot of extra money. So the whole idea is to try and improve the quality of healthcare by creating a better sort of system of quality care, visibility among providers on how to provide good healthcare for their members, how to reduce the cost of healthcare, and how to make you a happier, healthier individual. That's kind of the whole thing. It's not just in the past, it was transactional. Again, doctor does something, he gets paid for something. People pay their premiums and then they go see a doctor, and all that's pretty basic. Healthcare finance is what it's really called today. We don't really subscribe to health insurance. What people participate in is something called healthcare finance. All we do is we pay into a system to help finance our healthcare at this point. And it's paid in a lot of different ways to doctors. Some doctors sign up to take a lump sum payment for you each month, for instance, where they're going to give that doctor $600 a month to take care of all your healthcare needs. And he has to do a good job or he doesn't make money on you. He could lose money. It's a risky situation. Some doctors sign up to take part in what they call value-based reimbursement programs, these sort of new and different ways of, if I can keep your quality scores high and your incidence of going to the hospital low, or, if you have a condition and if we don't manage it well and you have to go to the hospital, that's a ding on the provider and they don't get paid as much. So there's ways in which they're trying to innovate. These are very simplified examples, but there's ways in which we've been trying to innovate the industry for decades on trying to get healthcare improved, costs down, and people and doctors operating in a happier, healthier sort of healthcare ecosystem.
Okay, so in a short, you only have me for a TikTok video elevator speech.
Yeah.
Why would I want the doctor to spend less money on me? How is that going to be better insurance? I mean, better healthcare. Like, don't I want him to have access to all the money and do whatever he wants?
Well, so for instance, a physician, if you go to a doctor's office and he spends 30 minutes with you, taking time to talk to you and get to know your issue, he can bill that as a higher level of service and get paid more money. But in theory, that means he can treat you better. So if the insurance company gives him 1 or 2 opportunities a year to give you that higher level of service, and that's authorized or paid for as part of your wellness program, he can treat you better and you might have to come back less. You can call and say, hey, I need that refill in my migraine medication, or I need that refill in my asthma medication, or I've been feeling a little weird today. They know what to do versus, well, come into the office, we'll see you again. You got to sit there for an hour, see him for 5 minutes, and they bill the insurance and you go away, and everybody loses in that situation. He can get paid for providing better health care. And if you are healthier throughout the year, he or she can also get paid more money by the plan for providing better quality care. So it's just a different way of looking at it versus, I go for a shot, I go for a stitch, I go for my asthma's flaring up, I go to the ER, I go to the outpatient clinic because it's too expensive to go to the ER, and I get whatever. You know how it is. So we're trying to improve that whole thing. And the health insurance companies are very involved in that whole payment reform process. They have incentives, and we can get into this later, to do a better job of providing health care and saving money. And there's laws. You wouldn't believe how many laws that health insurance companies operate under. They got federal laws. They're all managed within every state by state insurance commissions. They have community-based laws if they're doing community programs. They've got all kinds of employer-based laws for how they applied healthcare to your employer group.
Is that why there's like a Blue Cross Blue Shield of Georgia and a Blue Cross Blue Shield of, because there's different laws for each state?
Yes, every insurance company that operates in multiple states has to get certified, to use the simple word, in every state.
Okay.
And they have to be approved to do business, and there's lots of rules that allow a plan to operate or not operate in each state.
How much I know I'm putting you on the spot here. How much would you guess that insurance companies pay just to meet the law requirements from the federal government? Just the federal government, forget the state government.
There's a bunch of laws that are part of that: employment law, insurance law. The ACA itself fundamentally changed how healthcare, they have to provide so many services now that they didn't have to offer before as part of the base package. That's one of the reasons why your employer-based healthcare has gone up, because they have to carry so many different things that they didn't offer before unless it was a supplemental insurance. So it's like the law, ACA said you can't offer Cadillac insurance for your special employees. You've got to offer it to everybody. But by offering it to everybody, then everybody's driving a Cadillac now. and it cost a boatload of money. That's just one tiny little.
So does that mean as a company, you're going to tend to want to like withdraw the Cadillac and only offer like the Toyota? Like,
no, it's just in the past, as in the past as a family, we could have bought a basic healthcare plan where you just want to have hospitalization, pregnancy and unexpected accident or something. You could have gotten really catastrophic healthcare coverage. But now like if you go to an employer, they have to, and you get an employer-based healthcare, they have to include things like mental health coverage and emotional and behavioral health coverage. And you have to get often vision and dental coverage. And you have to have all these things have to be offered as like a minimum acceptable level of coverage for people. Each one of those things costs money. Those are paid to different providers, and you have to contract new networks of providers to provide that. You have to manage all of those various aspects of people's healthcare now. You have to hire case managers and medical managers to understand every person who has this healthcare now and how to manage their care within that. Insurance company does all of that for us, and we don't even know it.
So what I'm hearing is complicated.
It's super complicated.
It's super
A healthcare
complicated.
system like United Healthcare probably has hundreds of software vendors, if not thousands, providing all the little bits and tweaks and levers that run everything from getting the data from providers to making payments to everything. There's so much that goes on.
Okay,
Anyways,
so
that's just kind of, I didn't mean to even talk about all that, but there you go.
No, I wanted background and I asked for it. And as you pop in at any point when you have a question. All right, so hit us with who Brian Thompson is and how he fits into the insurance wheel, or his particular insurance wheel.
Okay,
maybe is what I should say.
Do you want me to
go for it? Just
we're gonna. Here we are.
You know,
I don't know why it's called this.
he's already missed the mark on the lecture thing, and when he's
I'm sorry. Well, you can stop and ask all these questions. So I wanted to start with this. So and again, I'm not trying to be insulting, but I'm trying to put a picture here that if you look at the organizational chart on the right, now Ansley said that people are saying, oh, he's one of many CEOs. But if you think about what does a CEO do and how much control does he have? Well, this is the point of view that most people, I think, who talk about this subject have on what a CEO is and what his organization looks like. CEO, he's got some middle managers, he's got somebody from his family he hired, and you've got all the little people working for them. And then he tells all the little people and the middle managers what to do, and they go and do it. So I think this is, to me, particularly dangerous. This is Occupy Wall Street, the shooting CEOs, whatever. They've always, in TV and movies, it's always the evil CEO who's orchestrated somebody going out and getting killed because of some stock thing or because they didn't sell some product, and our secret's gonna get out.
All right, explain to me the miserable littler people.
Well, the little people occasionally have littler people reporting to them. So.
All right, so Anse, is this close to the cultural view that you have been hearing on your in your sphere?
I mean, yes, I think the complaint is more the fact that these CEOs are making so many millions of dollars, and then the company itself is denying claims that are, just little ones that are just a couple $1,000s, but we can't afford to approve that because our CEO wants to make $50 million. So
good point. So Fred, what say you?
I will. I have a slide for that. But before I even get there, I'll just say this. If every person receiving United Healthcare benefits, if one of their 50 million people that are being insured by United Healthcare had to write a check to pay for their CEO's job, everybody would write a check for 20 cents. So his salary is not taking healthcare away from anybody. So I'm just pointing that out. And again, I've got the numbers broken down later. The company pays him to run an efficient organization, to not lose money, because if they don't pay enough claims, they get dinged and they've got to pay them all back. They'll get in trouble.
I realize that it's
So-
not his salary where the claims come from, but the company as a whole makes billions of dollars, and then you have people who are not able to receive health care. And also, I think a large issue is that because we have health insurance and we're required to have health insurance, doctors and hospitals and health insurance companies are able to put mostly hospitals are able to put whatever price tag they want on operations, medicine, whatever. And so you have these ridiculous bills that are coming out where somebody has to pay $15,000 for having skin-to-skin contact right after they've given birth to their newborn child. Or it's like...
So that's a whole nother...
I know. I'm just saying, I think that's part of the problem. Is these people are seeing giant bills, and then you have these Instagram influencers or TikTokers or whoever who are being seen traveling to other countries like Turkey or Germany, I believe are the two that come to the top of my brain. They're getting full workups, dental, especially for girls, mammograms, pelvic, blood work, everything for $3,000.
Some of those countries they go to, people pay 75% income tax.
And yes,
so it's heavily subsidized. So where do you want
But-
your money to go? But I'll cover this because that's part of the big picture of what we were not seeing. There's a lot behind the covers, and there's a particular culprit here, which I'll get to in just a minute. I'm going to go really quickly through these next few slides because I want to lecture. But here is the organizational structure of United Health Group. All right. So this is headed by a president, and then Brian Thompson was the CEO of United Healthcare. He's one of dozens of CEOs.
Use your pointer to point at these. Oh wait, I see them. They're in yellow.
He highlighted them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I highlighted them yellow. So that's the United Health Group president and CEO. This is United Healthcare CEO. United Health Group has something like 28 subsidiaries, and they've got something like 280 executives. I'll get to that, but there we are, 21 subsidiaries and over 280 executives. These are all the CEOs working at various health companies, health-related companies, some of them health plans, like one plan manages pharmacy insurance and pharmacy plans. These are the people within the organization. If you click just down into Brian Thompson's organization, he has also working for him 12 chief officers and a number of presidents and senior vice presidents. Each of these highlighted are CEOs who are responsible for particular line of business. I put LOB a lot in this slide deck, but an LOB, line of business, meaning your Medicare business, your Medicaid line of business, your employer-based care, which most Americans under 65 have some type of employer-based or individual health care. So I drilled into that guy, the CEO. This is his organization. So within the overall organization, we have one line of business run by a CEO who has a number of senior vice presidents who have to handle all the various activities within this one single line of business, from marketing and developing networks with providers, doing account management and enrollment and eligibility and wellness plans and managed care and all that kind of stuff. Most of these things are not handled by the parent organization, but I'll come back to that because this goes back to one of Ansley's earlier points. Even within that, just looking at something like this is eligibility and enrollment within this one line of business, you have senior directors and vice presidents and other people running all these little components, and they have directors and they have managers and they have junior managers. And then there's hundreds of people going down just this one chain doing stuff that is day-to-day operations of just this one thing in the health plan. So you've got Brian Thompson up here, and you have a dozen CEOs and chief executive officers working for him. And then those people have executive vice presidents and senior vice presidents working for them. And then they've got managers. These people are all doing different things in the company to try and just give you health care and pay your claims and make sure you're enrolled to get paid. Now, why bring it all up? Because all of these people, in particular, say Brian Thompson and these other CXOs, sweeping powers they have to go out and put hits on the people in the movies, they're managed by a board of directors. The board of directors provides the strategic guidance to all the CEOs. They provide the governance, making sure we're complying with laws, the strategic vision and mission and goals for the year and the quarter. They identify corporate risk. They set the compensation. The CEOs don't go out and decide what they're going to get paid. They don't pay themselves money. They get paid by the board of directors, sets compensation. They do ESG, which we all hate, but they provide ESG oversight. They do audits of financials and performance, and they establish committees to provide corporate oversight. You even see on Brian Thompson's hierarchy, he's got one of the board of directors, I guess, assigned to sit side by side and help provide oversight during day-to-day operations. So that's the corporate organization. And so once the CEO receives the marching orders from the board, his primary job from the board is to communicate those goals to his reports, all these other chief executive officers.
Fred?
Yes.
Are you saying that it's the board of directors that should have been executed?
I'm saying that this, let me just finish this thought, because that was funny, but no, nobody gets executed. So while the CEOs, sub-CEOs, and other executive managers do the day-to-day stuff, the CEO in this case, Brian Thompson, spends most of his time doing business development, including public relations, talking to other companies for mergers and acquisitions, going to their top clients and employer groups and smoothing over problems and shaking hands and making sure they're happy, evaluating opportunities for like future think for what's going on in the industry. He also spends a lot of his time in board meetings talking about upcoming quarterly performance. We're about to lose $1 billion. What are we going to do about that? We're not having enrollment this year. What's going on with that? So he sits a lot sitting here with the sad face with the board of directors. That's what Brian Thompson was doing the day before he was executed.
So Fred, if he gave up his salary, if he made $0, he said, I'm just going to do it for free, how many claims would he have paid for?
Not many, but I'll show you what the dollars and cents are in just a minute. So why does this matter? And I brought this up because going back to the initial discussion that started all of this. So yes, Taylor Lorenz, she said in this interview, tens of thousands of innocent Americans are dead because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care. And she's feeling celebratory just because it feels like justice. And then this is Chris Rock. He's going on, I feel sorry for him, but sometimes drug dealers get shot. So how often, the question is, do you think that CEO Brian Thompson denied someone's coverage?
According to what you just said, it's 0.
I know, it's like
it's 0. So, but what about his organization? Surely he approved the AI system that denied healthcare claims.
As
Let's take a look
Ansley
at that.
Pointed out.
Yes. So this is United Healthcare. This is a news story. I clipped this from a web page somewhere. They had an AI algorithm that was denying 90% error rate and was denying people's healthcare. And that's the claim. They said it increased to like 22% denial rate because of the bad AI. This was for only their Medicare Advantage plans, which in this case is only 15% of their total healthcare coverage from United Healthcare. This was not everybody. This is not your employer-based healthcare. It wasn't your Medicaid. It wasn't your supplemental. This was your Medicare Advantage plans. Implemented this technology. The CEO of that line of business, I guess, implemented it because the tool was designed particularly for Medicare Advantage. And they implemented it and had an error, which was corrected. Then taking this back to our discussion, on top of that, United Health Group has separate technology divisions that they've acquired. Again, one of these many companies that they acquire every year, and they operate underneath the umbrella of another technology division in United Health Group. One company, I think they're selling them or sold them, is Change Healthcare, part of Optum Insights. We have Optum as part of our health savings account. And as part of our benefits management, we had Optum when I was at my former company. Optum has Change Healthcare, part of Optum, does a lot of services and doing the authorizations, and they have analytics and a lot of stuff for member management. They also have, in this particular case, part of Optum Health was a company called Navi Health that they bought. They're the company that wrote the AI that Optum bought and implemented that caused the issue. So this was part of Optum Health. So let me show you, Brian Thompson here has nothing to do with that. This was a United Health Group decision, and UHC was just a consumer of the corporate systems, which is quite frequent.
UHC bought this system, and this system was flawed by whoever it was that put it together, is what you're saying.
UHG did it, and then UHC was a consumer within the company of a corporate system.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah. And it was a mistake. I mean, they rectified it, but that's how that problem happened, the AI issue. AI is being used all over in healthcare, and we work really hard in healthcare to make sure our AI training and AI systems are reliable and accurate. I don't know what happened there. I'm not excusing whoever made that mistake, but I'm saying it wasn't Brian Thompson's fault that happened. He didn't even set it up. That's just his Medicare Advantage business used a system that was from the Medicare Advantage system that the corporation put in. And
so you're arguing that it was a mistake, not an intentional thing to deny claims.
Yes, it was absolutely a bad AI algorithm that they implemented without a proper level of testing and validation. So having said all that, it's just talking about the dollars and cents now. We'll get into it really quick. All the headlines say United Healthcare, one of the largest health insurance company in America. Yeah, maybe. But the largest health payer in America is not a company, it's the US government. So the US government spends about $1.75 trillion every year on healthcare. All private insurance paid by all companies, that is Centene, that is CVS, that is United Healthcare, that's the Blues of the world, or all that top bar. And this is the United States government. So the portion that our health insurance is paying, our private health insurance, is dwarfed by what the federal government is paying. Now, to be fair, the federal government tends to pay for those people, the folks like Medicaid who are having a hard time making ends meet and have certain health conditions that require a lot of high level of care, or they're over 65 and they're retired. So they have typically higher costs of care. But all that said, this is the bundle of costs that go into our health system today. This is all spending. If you want to look at this, well, how much of that is United Healthcare? So it's about 7.9% of all business in the US where we have Medicare, Medicaid, and commercial lines of business and private insurance, the lines of business they participate in. This is how much they spend of the share of the national spend. If you look at all healthcare spending, United Healthcare is about 5.4% of that. That's what they're responsible for. So the largest healthcare company in America is responsible for between 5 and 8% of healthcare claims, healthcare spend. And one last, a couple last points, and I'll get out of this mode, I promise. But what most people aren't aware of when it comes to healthcare payments is a company like United Healthcare. So this year they might take in $350 billion in premiums. They're required by law to pay out at least, and depending on the market in the state, 80 to 85% of those claims as medical expenses and quality improvement initiatives, things like that, to make your health better. The rest of the money they have to use the other, so United Healthcare this year, they're spending about 84.9% on healthcare spend. So they have 15.1% left to run their business, pay their employees, maintain the systems, rent their facilities, or pay for their mortgage, all that kind of stuff. So they have spent about 13.5% of that to operate their business to pay these dollars. That leaves them with a 1.6% profit margin. The only time they make money, where they're making their money, is through ancillary products and services and investments, meaning they sell services to employer groups to run their self-employed business, their self-insured business. I mean, they do all kinds of things. They help doctors. They run certain clinics. They have all kinds of stuff they do outside of paying claims to try and make money. So UHC's net earnings after taxes this year, according to estimates, will be around $18 billion. That's about what Elon Musk, his net worth grows in 2 days. So they take in $350 billion in premiums, and they keep, at the end of the day, $18 billion for running all of that, paying all the care, managing claims and health conditions, and working with providers and doing all the business of making healthcare operate.
So wait, Brian Thompson's salary came out of that 13% or whatever, about 15%.
Yes,
and then the amount that they made, the profit, did that get split up with the board, or what happens to that profit?
So that's what is able to be realized by the investors in the company. This actually goes out into, they figure out the cost per share and all of that. They claim dividends, and people make dividends based on that. Some's reinvested or whatever they decide, and some's released as dividends, and people get paid for investing in United Healthcare as a publicly traded company, I think.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So here's some numbers about his thing. If every employee had to pay for their CEO, who's making the company billions of dollars, it's $45 per person to have a top-notch CEO. The entire health group, if they all chipped in, is $22. Again, if it's all the covered members, it's 20 cents. Now, why would the company pay him $10 million? Well, for every $1 billion of gross revenue he's helping to generate, they're paying him $27,000, which is a minuscule number. For every $1 billion in net revenue that he helps this company generate, it was about $555,000 that they paid him. That comes out to 0.0555%. It's not even 0.5%. It's 0.5% of the net revenue that he helps generate in this company. He gets that much. That's his share of corporate revenue. The rest is going to shareholders, and the rest is going to, corporate, whatever they do, investments. You have to read their annual statements. So
wait a minute. So you're not saying kill the board, you're saying kill the shareholders?
Yes. Don't invest in companies. Start your own company. So anyways, so we can take this off the screen. So I'm not saying that Brian Thompson was necessarily an angel. I have no idea what his personal life was like. Did the entire United Health Group have some conspiracy to try and defraud people? I don't know. That's up to regulators. It's up to investigators. It's up to other people. But what I'm telling you is, from my point of view, and having been in the industry for decades and worked with hundreds of insurance companies and been on site, worked with a number of healthcare CEOs, this is not who they are. They're not people who should be shot for what they do. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't change the way the business is run. Part of the biggest issue we have is the government spends so little money on healthcare. They contract providers at a rate that's so low that on average, what you and I pay and our insurance companies that cover us pay to do the same procedure is they have to pay 200% more to that doctor then
Okay.
the government gets to pay him.
I have to interrupt you because Anne's Panda is being super sweet when she told us very clearly before we got started that she had to leave 30 minutes ago, and she has not
Well, I
left.
thought it was
Oh, no, I still got 30 minutes. My
Oh,
time.
you
not
have
your time.
your turn.
Your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. Anne's, I'm
Well,
trying to look out for you.
I appreciate that. This does give me the opportunity to say, though, how
Yeah.
'cause Daddy just said that. Daddy just said that.
The totally cool dog. The
Yeah,
totally
sorry.
cool dog.
I know. The totally cool dog. That the assassination or whatever, this isn't going to change anything. It doesn't affect anything. Or Brian Thompson. But what about the fact that one of the other major health insurance companies, right before this happened, was saying that they weren't going to completely cover anesthesia anymore, that they were going to stop covering the full cost of anesthesia for surgeries. And then once this happened, oh, guess what? Complete 180. They changed their mind. They said, "Oh, sorry, just kidding. We'll keep covering the anesthesia for your surgeries and operations."
So again, how the claims, how finance, I mean, how healthcare gets paid is so complex because when you go, so say you're a health insurance company and you go out there, I need an anesthesiology group, I need a hospital, I need doctors. To build a network of providers, you have to have a minimum number of providers of all these specialties and all these generalists and all these types of facilities to be able to cover insurance, cover people in that market. Once you do that, you have to contract with every single one of these groups, one of these providers. You have to decide what rates to pay, what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered. Some of that is mandatory. They're required by law to cover certain things for a certain, level of care. Other stuff isn't necessarily covered. One guy might cover 4 surgeries for your knee. One might cover 2 surgeries in 1 revision, but not a 4th surgery. At that point, it's unnecessary or there was medical malpractice involved. So there's tens of thousands of people whose job it is, and we call them actuaries and clinical review and chief medical officers, and all these people get together and they decide, quality assurance specialist, all these different people, to decide what's appropriate in negotiating these contracts and what's going to be paid and not paid. So
I think those
I
are the
don't know who
people
that.
we should have a talking to with.
So I can't say, I don't know enough about that particular instance, but it's not that a healthcare company is going to say, I'm not paying for anesthesia. What they might be saying is, if you're going in for a low risk, low threshold procedure, like you're going to get, carpal tunnel, we're not going to put you under. We'll pay for local anesthetics or whatever it is. I'm just making this up. But what they're trying to say is, well, they're not going to put me under to do a carpal tunnel surgery. So I'm mad. I want to go under. I don't want to be away.
This is true.
This
There
kind
is-
of stuff can,
There is an option to
It was
do
Blue Cross Blue Shield. Sorry, I was just looking it up to verify because I wanted to say it was Blue Cross Blue Shield and I wasn't sure, and it was.
Okay,
Sorry.
so that and that is true. I can tell you that from someone who's worked in the OR. There are surgeries that you can choose to have anesthesia or you could choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
And people incorrectly assume that they'll need it. So, and you did a great example there with carpal tunnel. We did a surgery on a carpal tunnel surgery where there was no anesthesia used, but the person couldn't feel a thing. And it's because we used a different technique. So there are ways to go without anesthesia, which can actually be a healthier option. We chose this for this particular person because he was older and we didn't want to use any anesthesia that might cause him issues later. Whereas the technique that we used caused him no issues whatsoever.
Well,
So,
in this
Yeah.
instance, it was a time limit. No longer pay for anesthesia care in certain states if the surgery or procedures go beyond a particular time limit.
Well, let me tell you, one of the big costs in healthcare is healthcare variability across markets. We did research in one of the companies we were in, And we were looking at the cost in one single state across all their counties and cities and all of this stuff. And you would go to one small town with a little local hospital, and their cost to do a procedure was 4 times what it costs the hospital in the city to do. That's because they didn't have any expertise. They only did 2 or 3 of the procedures a year versus 200 or 300 a year. And so the doctor would go in and he'd be taking 6 hours for the surgery when it should have been finished in 2.5 hours or 3 hours. That was one of the things. Their post-surgical care was different. Their follow-up care was different. It was worse healthcare, worse outcomes. It also, there's lots of quality studies that show the longer somebody's under anesthesia, the worse it is for the respiratory recovery after surgery, and some other things as far as like infections and the different other things happen because your body's suppressed for so long. So there's times when you have to be under for a long time, but there's others where somebody's not performing efficient and good quality healthcare. Again, it's impossible to say. All these things have to be reviewed and looked at case by case to see what's going on. But you see the headlines and it looks like, well, this is evil companies trying to keep people from having anesthesia when you get your brain surgery or whatever. And that's usually not the case. It's way more nuanced than that.
I understand what you're saying. I understand your point. I have 2 follow-up points. One,
Okay.
I'm just saying it's funny, not really funny, but funny how this was a proposal for Blue Cross Blue Shield up until December 5th was when they made their change of decision, which guess what? Brian Thompson died on December 4th. Just coinkydinky timing is all I'm saying. Second point, that seems really shady for them to be like particular states because your doctors suck and your procedures take too much time. We're not going to cover your surgeries, but we will cover your surgeries that are the same exact thing that just take less time. That sucks for those people in those states. That's my point too.
You should insist on good health care. And
I mean, agreed.
You do have to be an advocate for your own healthcare, but I can speak to actually seeing doctors game the system. So they absolutely could. And in my instance, they absolutely could have used a different doctor to help with their surgery, but they wanted their friend to make an extra, $5,000. So instead of using the lesser paid assistant, they'll go for the more expensive doctor friend. I have witnessed utilization of surgery when surgery shouldn't have been called for, just so that they could get the higher priced payout on that particular person's healthcare outcome. I won't go further than that. We to the point where we started labeling things not what they were, but what monetary benefit they would bring to the doctor for doing it. And in fairness, that has to do a little bit with the insurance companies and the laws that are involved, because they felt like they weren't making their just payments. So they designed their own workarounds to that by scratching each other's backs. So I've witnessed that happening.
That's illegal.
And in order to combat that, healthcare industry, insurance company industries have started trying to top down manage some of that. And that's why we worked in the system that we worked in, Fred and I, was to try to find a middle ground that would benefit both parties and yet still bring healthcare costs down, maximizing what people were able to potentially make at the expense of improving healthcare instead of the expense of, declining healthcare. Anyway, you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just bringing this back up because, talking about government's involvement in healthcare, if you look at this number, how much the government spends, it is estimated, and this is from OMB, the Office of Management Budget or whatever, by Inspector General's office and all this stuff. The U.S. federal government spend in healthcare, there's about $100 billion a year in fraud, waste, and abuse. That's how poorly the government does anything. So if you look at all of the private health insurance companies, they have entire departments, every single one of them dedicated to mitigating and preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. These companies might have less than, I mean, I'm just throwing a number out there, 0.5% of fraud, waste, and abuse. The government has, it's like 5% of what they spend is wasted spend. So if you want to redirect funds to people who are being denied healthcare or anything else that they're having trouble with, $100 billion a year could be reclaimed from the federal government alone and spent on something useful other than people defrauding the government and missed payments and mismanaged payments to providers across the country. So that's one point. And another one is something I think is really fascinating. If you go, I've been to, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of healthcare conferences. You would be shocked to find out, maybe you wouldn't be, but I was shocked to find out that the overwhelming majority of people working in healthcare are what you would call progressives, very progressive liberal people. I mean, they work for the system.
Shocked.
And
I'm not shocked to hear that.
Half of them talking, you would think that a single payer system would be great for them, even if they and everybody they know is out of a job. Even if they know what that means as far as the quality and timing and delivery of healthcare would be terrible, it's such a weird dichotomy that our healthcare system, you even have people in the industry who think that we would be better off with the government running everything, or it being one system, like United Healthcare doing all of healthcare for America, for instance, being paid by the government. So in some cases, that's what happens. A lot of your Medicaid plans.
So wait, isn't that what they have in Germany and Canada and stuff like that? They have like a one payer.
In England, yeah, they've got the health services or whatever you call it. It's really bad. Everybody pays into it. You get what you get. And there's no, if you don't get what you need, tough luck. Here, if you need to go get surgery, you can schedule it and a week later you're getting that surgery. There are a lot of flaws in healthcare and how it's financed. But again, you and I, the regular citizens in America, pay the difference in what providers aren't getting paid by the federal government. So the government contracts a provider 50 cents to do this. You and I have to pay that provider through our insurance company $1, $2, $3 for the exact same thing, because otherwise those providers can't do business. A lot of providers don't take Medicaid or Medicare because they can't afford it. That's a huge thing that nobody wants to talk about in America, but I'm just putting that out there, that if the government got out of the business of doing healthcare, I think it would all level out over time, where you wouldn't have all these radical shifts in costs and all these contracting rates that are so high, and providers doing everything they can to get paid for something they should have gotten paid for in the first place. That's my opinion. Backed up by tons of numbers, but that's
I was still on the same topic, but not on the same topic at all.
okay.
A thought. I have seen a few screenshots and theories. I'm not entirely convinced Luigi's actually the one who did it. So that's always a fun conspiracy to go down. And then my second was, I'm loving all of the people that are coming out and photoshopping, AIing him into work photos, being like, Luigi was here all day. What are you talking about? Like there's a Instagram account that I actually follow.
Well, we want to stay away from highlighting this guy too much. I think that he will be tried, unlike what happened to the CEO guy, but I think he will be seeing justice, and he will be tried, and he will be either held accountable or acquitted. And I know our justice system isn't perfect, and I'm willing to admit that, but I'm not as concerned about him as I am this guy that's been tried by the court of public opinion and found guilty and sentenced. And I don't know. We look at the assassination attempts of President-elect Donald Trump. We have the actual assassination of this UHC CEO. And then there's no talk whatsoever on either one of these about gun control. I hear a lot about, why did you miss? How could you have missed? Somebody else, I'll pay for you to go shoot them. That kind of thing. Then we have a horrible school shooting that just happened. And immediately, within hours, it's talked about gun control. So if you want to talk about conspiracy theories, here's my very own deep thought conspiracy theory. I think that the healthcare insurance discussion is what would be the gun control issue for any other case. And while it has little, according to what all the evidence Fred just showed us, to do with this particular case, especially when you weigh in the factor that this particular kid wanted surgery and at his young age got granted surgery, paid in full, and then also claimed that it changed his life and he was completely healed, and wasn't even insured with this insurance company of the CEO he killed.
Right.
So it shouldn't have anything to do with this particular case. This case provided an opportunity for the powers that be to talk about an issue that they want to assume control over. So I guess I'm saying that my conspiracy theory is the government's behind it and they're covering it up. So I feel like whenever there's one of these issues, we end up discussing things that have zero to do with what actually happened on that site. For instance, in the gun case, this person went to the school and shot it up with a handgun. She was a prohibited user, so she shouldn't have had a gun. She was going on a gun-free zone area, so she shouldn't have had a gun. And she went and killed 2 people and injured 7 others, and then killed herself. So we're talking about gun control for assault rifles, and we're talking about, taking guns away from everybody, when none of that would change anything about this case. And instead of talking about a life was lost, this was wrong, it should have never happened, we're instead putting the insurance companies on trial. And what do they want out of it? They want absolute control over the health insurance system so that they can have, as you said, single payer insurance. And that's my conspiracy theory.
Yeah. It's funny because, again, being there and knowing how this all works, the dirty little secret is the government can't manage the healthcare for all these people in America. It can't pay the claims. It can't handle all the issues. What the government does is the government hires private health insurance companies to manage half of their business. So the half that's lost, that $100 billion is most likely coming out of the government spend. The other half that's not being lost is coming out over the health insurance companies because they can do it more efficiently, more effectively. They do a better job at it than the government can do. The government systems are these monolithic things up there that anyways, it's a mess. And I know they want to modernize, but it's a massive system anyways. That's something most people don't realize is that the government, because you talk about single payer, well, you want to call it single payer. So we have Medicare, Medicaid, and all this stuff. It's the government, and this is true, but it's the government paying half the time private companies to do the business because they do it better than the government.
Well, they would suck them into their system, and then they would all be government systems. But that's
so federalization / Nazism. So
this is the problem is we already have examples we can look at. I mean, you named one, I named the other. I can't speak to other countries as well as I can. Canada is a big single payer system, and Fred actually worked with somebody in Canada who had to go through medical different things. I've talked to and been friends with people from Canada. So if you get sick, you want to go to the doctor. In the United States, you just call the doctor and say, I want to see you today. I'm feeling ill. There, it's a guessing game whether you'll see a doctor. And if you're sick with something more benign or more common, they will wait and they have a group, and then you will see the doctor in a group setting. They don't just come in and say, all right, I'm going to take your temperature and I'm going to ask you what your symptoms are. You go in saying, I have a sore throat and I've had a fever, and they group you with other people with sore throats and fevers so that they can treat you all at one time. That's how tight they are. Then there is the guy who had something wrong with his leg, I believe it was, and he needed like knee surgery or hip surgery, one or the other, I can't remember. And so he went in and said, I absolutely need this. And they said, why? And he says, I'm in incredible pain. And the doctor says, if I get this done, that'll help with the pain. And they were like, how bad is the pain? He says, really, really bad. Do you want to commit suicide? He said, no. And they went, it's not bad enough. And he was like, okay, but if I say yes, the option now with the Canadian healthcare system is to kill yourself. And they are actually, I just heard today that they announced that they are putting PTSD for veterans that are coming back suffering from PTSD. They're putting the option of suicide, medical assisted suicide. They call it something else, medical assisted something. They don't call it suicide, but end of life. I mean, they try to couch it in some really pretty thing. And then
medically assisted dying or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, they try to make it sound pretty, but this has gotten so out of hand that 1 in 20 deaths in the last year was attributed to suicide, medical assisted suicide. So my concern is, as we villainize these things like healthcare facilities and doctors and insurance companies, we tend to lose sight of these are things that, as consumers of the product, as direct consumers with dollars, we can have a lot of say in what they do and what they don't do. The more we relegate ourselves down that ladder, the less we're going to have to say. So before we had insurance companies, we were absolute direct, and we walked up to the doctor and we went, no, I'm not paying that much. Here's what I have. And doctors were forced to kind of barter with you over what you could pay and what you couldn't pay. Then we got insurance, and people started to just demand that they pay nothing. And now we've got to where people are just, it's healthcare, and I deserve people to treat me for free. It doesn't matter that the people that are treating you have families, have lives, they need food, they need shelter, they'll need to drive places. They had educations they had to pay for, certifications they have to keep up every year that the government forces them to keep up, right or wrong. All of that costs a boatload of money. We were talking to one of our doctors in the past that worked with us, and he was saying in the state he was in, he had to pay a fee every year to the state he was in just to claim that he was like basically still get certified by that state. So that's just a state issue, not a federal issue. But you wouldn't believe how many different avenues people are trying to stick the hands in the pockets of these people. So I'm just worried. I feel like this is a distraction technique to try to get people riled up so that they start having political talking points so they can say, vote this way. Because if you vote this way, they'll make it so that they can't do that to you anymore. And what you'll end up getting, regardless of what party you're voting for, what you will end up getting is a single payer system where you get nothing. And they start saying, well, if you want to commit suicide, we can make that happen for you so you don't feel pain anymore. That's my concern. So I'm not saying that we roll over and take whatever they're giving. Let Blue Cross Blue Shield not offer us anesthesia or whatever. But when we had direct access to them, we could say, no, you will pay, you will get but now we don't. Now we have the extra layers that protect them and keep them from feeling the pain and power of the consumer. And that's frustrating to me.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that, we can do conspiracy theories all day, but the fact that we have, there are some, how many dozens have been proven to be true? We were conspiracy theorists for not believing this or the other, and it's actually true. In this case, I think you're right. There's a lot of forces out there trying to push certain industries in certain directions, and healthcare is definitely one of them. They have been for a long time. But I don't know. I'm sure the government, there's certain people in government. I don't know, in private industry, you would think they would know better, that as our population continues to age and more people are going into post-employment health plans like Medicare.
And less people are choosing to have children that are going to help support that system.
Exactly. The crisis is we're already spending twice on healthcare that we are on national defense. And that, if that doesn't tell you something, we're going to be spending 3 times as much in 10 years. It's just going to keep ballooning. So when people were talking about 10 years ago, oh, we're not going to have death panels. Well, honestly, if you're on a single payer government run system, they can certainly deny care and put it in their rules that you won't get care for end of life. You're going to hospice. You're not going to get this procedure. You're going to hospice. You see more and more of that even today. In some cases, it's very good. It's a good choice. Don't sit in the hospital on a ventilator for 6 months. Go to hospice, be with your family, and pass, naturally. But on the other hand, there's certain things where I just need a valve replaced. I just need a stent. I just need something that could be done. And they're like, yeah, you only have another 1.2 years left according to the statistics. So that's cost too much. That sort of decision making absolutely will come into play.
Well, we saw it with COVID, right? When people were outright saying, like doctors were saying, if you have not chosen to get the vaccination, don't bother coming in because I won't treat you, which is illegal if I understand.
That's a whole other discussion. But so that is the risk of having zero options. We need multiple options. And so I think it's important to keep the ability to have private insurance, employer-based insurance, even health savings accounts. Those should be expanded to where it's unlimited.
I wish it wasn't employer-based. I wish you didn't. The fact that it can't cross state lines, and
it can now. You can't be, in theory, you could get. Well, it used to be you couldn't get coverage if you lost coverage. You had to be all that stuff. You can go from 1 to 1, and you can go across state lines with whatever pre-existing conditions.
Okay.
But you might not be able to get Blue Cross Blue Shield in one state where you could get it in another state, or United Healthcare or whatever. Some plans don't operate across state lines, but you should be able to get equivalent coverage in every state. But the choices should be there. And
I don't know. Okay, so we're coming up on a hard loss of band. So I want us to kind of wrap it up. So 100%, we all agree. Yeah, and nod your head yes when I say this. Nobody should be assassinating people in the streets of New York or any other streets, right? Yeah, no assassinations. And then I have a little asterisk over that. The only time it's okay to kill somebody is if you are an imminent threat of death or torture or whatever, right? Are we on board with that?
Yes.
Self-defense. Yes. Okay. I just wanted that clearly stated for the record. Like, none of us are advocating for anybody to be assassinated for any reason like that. Having said that, I had another discussion point I wanted to bring up, but we'll just have to save it for the next one. So any parting questions or thoughts or ideas, or did we resolve anything?
No. I think the main reason people are so okay with the assassination is just because everyone is upset with the state of healthcare. The fact that even if you do have health insurance, you're still probably paying out of pocket thousands of dollars.
Oh, that can't be true. That can't be true. We got Obamacare, and that made nobody's paying too much money now. I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Well, maybe. I would love to be wrong, but from the receipts I've seen from people and screenshots, and so they don't feel like they can go to the doctor, even if they have health insurance, because they're having to pay money out of pocket that they can't afford, because they can't afford groceries or rent at this point. Right. They can't afford to go to the dentist, and people are, I mean, they're just, nobody
it's
can
heartbreaking.
afford anything. So
right.
Seeing a CEO, I mean, yes, he is a CEO. Yes, there are dozens of other CEOs within the company alone, or CEOs under him even. Seeing the title CEO of UC Health, seeing that something is being done, even if it's a negative thing, I think makes people go, hey, maybe there's an opportunity for change, or maybe this will make people like start talking about it or think about it, or I don't know. But yes.
Yeah.
I think people are happy about it.
Well, I had to shake my head because like a day or two after that happened, I guess it's the guy who was the president, CEO of United Health Group, came out and spoke, and he's like, yes, there's so many problems with healthcare, and I'm sure it's our fault somewhere. And, people are understandably, it's like, it's a blah, blah, blah. Somebody in the public relations department printed something together and gave it to him and said, go out there and talk. And it's a bunch of nonsense, because I think they're doing the best they can. Their job is to provide healthcare coverage, don't spend more than you get in premiums, and try and get enough money at the end of the day, after you've met your legal obligations on that, to pay your shareholders. I mean, that's what they do. And that's every company in America. And I just think, to me, it's disheartening to see how many people have lost the value of human life, whether it's a president or a CEO or a baby or anything else. It's out there. People just like, if it's not me and it's not mine, I don't care. Just whatever. The world can blow up for all I care, because darn it, they deserve it. That's definitely not a Christian point of view, I don't think. And it's certainly not a healthy point of view. And two, when I was growing up, and the Kojita Bund one, and I can't ever say the word right, we're talking about earlier, was when we were growing up in school, we had to take classes where they taught us to balance a checkbook, how to set a budget for the household, how to spend the money, how to be, plan ahead, how to plan for your education, how to plan for your career. There's a lot of the sort of real life planning. I don't know that they do or don't do that in schools today, but I feel like my opinion is that they're not doing that. Kids come out today into the workforce, and they're like, I've got 3 more days till my paycheck, and I got a couple $100 in the bank, so I'm good. Or I'm not going to make it to the end of the month, so I'm doing bad. And they have no idea how, corporations budget the same way your household budget works. They can't spend more money than they make, or they've got to borrow it, or they've got to leverage it, or they've got to do this, that, or the other. And all these decisions are made based on, are we going to lose money, or are we going to not lose money? And so there's very little, the idea of corporate greed, there's so many people involved. A company of 440,000 people whose livelihood depend on a company not failing. And there's shareholders, and there's a few people making more than others. $10 million salary is pretty nice. I'd love to make that. But most of their people in senior management might be making $200,000-$300,000 a year. That's pretty darn good money. And people in the trenches are making $150,000 a year. It's not like this is a terrible organization that's doing slave labor for digging lithium out of the hillsides. They're just doing normal
like
business.
Apple.
Like Apple. So most people are just doing a job and going home at the end of the day and going to Little League games. That's who these people are. They're not evil overlords. They just happen to be part of an organization that brings in hundreds of billions of dollars and is responsible for not losing that money and paying people's health care. It's tricky. But that's my point of view on that. I think that we lose sight of that.
Yeah, we do. We have truly lost sight of anything outside of our own sphere. And these kids not only do not learn how to take care of their own checking account, they come out of school thinking, I checked all the boxes, I went to college, and now I need to have the house, the car, everything that I grew up with, and I expect it now. And they don't get the working at the bottom, going up system that I trust me. I know you went through it. All right. So on that note, I think we are all in agreement on the very poor handling by these people of what's been going on. And we all deeply express our sympathy for the family of Brian Thompson. I mean, that's just heartbreaking, especially to have your father's murder on the internet forever. You can't get away from it. To have to look at that must be absolutely horrible. So we all feel sympathy there. Unlike that woman that I showed, we do feel sympathy for him, and we feel sympathy for people who don't have health care or are suffering through things like that. But we feel sympathy for this guy. That's who we're talking about right now. All right. On that note, Anne's pan has to go. We love you. You were great. Everybody say bye to Anne's pans.
Bye,
and
Anne's Panda.
and that's it for us. Those are just our thoughts. That's just our opinion. Let us know what you're thinking if you're watching. We appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. And I hope y'all have a great week. And we love you. Say bye.
Yeah.
I think it ended.